mysterious machine has appeared in homes across America.
32. Redouble his power.
Go! Just stick it in your Genesis.
Alright, baby.
Can we see that again?
32.
Let's go!
Increase the power of the unit. Increase the power of the unit 40 times.
Hey man, your set was stolen. Back up! Back up!
Hello and welcome to the second part of a two-show special as Replay Retro looks at how Sega tried to extend the lifespan of their popular Mega Drive console. I'm Matt, and this week we leave the failure of the Mega CD expansion and return once again to cartridges as we take a look at the 32X add-on. As the fourth generation console war raged on, Sega feared the Mega Drive was losing ground to its main rival, the Super Nintendo, and the Mega CD had failed to give it a significant market boost. Meanwhile, the new 5th generation 3DO and Jaguar consoles threatened to overshadow both, with advanced 3D graphics and vastly superior hardware specs. In a bid to compete, Sega had started work on a new cartridge-based 32-bit system codenamed Jupiter, but soon decided that CDs were the way to go due to their lower price and higher capacity. As such, they switched to developing a CD-based 32-bit system, which would eventually become known as the Saturn. The cartridge-based system was not lost, however, as the development team from Sega of America felt that there was still room for it in the market, believing that the Saturn would still be in development for some time to come. The team realised that they could use this technology as another attempt at prolonging the lifespan of the Mega Drive, and sought permission from their Japanese counterparts to go ahead with the project. However, this would be no simple decision, because in Japan, the Mega Drive had not been such a success, finishing behind both the Super Famicom and the PC Engine. Luckily for the Americans though, Sega of Japan was smart enough to realise that the Western success of the Mega Drive is what had given the company new legs in the first place, and so with full backing, Project Mars got underway. A 32-bit cartridge-based add-on for the Mega Drive was now in the works. The design centred around twin 32-bit Hitachi CPUs, just like the Saturn, and the two systems' similar beginnings meant that they also shared several other key features. However, those features were used very differently, as the 32X was designed to create 3D using pre-rendered graphics from the software, while the Saturn was essentially a 2D machine which attempted to render all graphics from the hardware, often resulting in memory errors. The 32X was also capable of using the Mega Drive in some very clever ways, including using the 16-bit hardware to generate specific layers, for example the background in Primal Rage, while the 32X itself would work on objects in the foreground, allowing for much more to be going on at screen at once without any slowdown. Enhanced sound capabilities were also included, as was the ability for the 32X and Mega CD to communicate, allowing for the possibility of games using all three pieces of hardware together. Despite many early adopters of the Mega CD feeling burned by the fall of the first add-on, early public perception showed that the 32X was going to be a powerful system capable of boosting the Mega Drive up to next generation performance levels. Interest was high and things looked promising. But then the American team's worst nightmare became reality. The Saturn got a release date, and it was far sooner than they had thought. It would launch in Japan in November of 1994, around the same time Sega of America planned to launch their new add-on. Suddenly the 32X looked pointless. Why would a stopgap even be needed if there was no longer a gap to fill? But it was too late now, and in the last 2 weeks of November the system went worldwide, with a UK launch price of £169.99, including £50 worth of games vouchers to encourage gamers that the high upgrade price was worth it. At first, things seemed to be going great. The Saturn would not be released in the West for another half a year, and early orders of the 32X quickly outstripped supply. Could the add-on have worked this time? Could Sega be about to give the Mega Drive a new lease of life? Before we answer that, let's take a look at the hardware itself and just a few of the games. Okay, so here we are with the 32X itself, and as you can see, it's not a lot to look at. Kind of a mushroom-shaped object, with the stalk obviously being the cartridge area itself that will plug into the console. On the top you have a cartridge port here with the dust flaps. That cartridge port obviously takes the 32X games, as you would expect, but can also take the standard Mega Drive games, meaning that you can leave this permanently attached to the top of your Mega Drive and you don't have to take it off every time you want to put a Mega Drive cartridge in. The only exceptions to that are the original Virtua Racer, which had extra chips in it for advanced graphics. That won't work because it won't pass the extra chips through to the Mega Drive. And also you can't plug the Master System converter into the top of this. So if you want to use either of those, you will have to pull out the 32X. Also on the top, as we'd expect, you've got the Sega and the 32X logos. And you've got a small amount of venting here. On the sides, you have nothing. Underneath, standard warnings and serial numbers that you would expect, as always. And on the back, we find two AV ports. We'll come on to the reasons why there's two in a moment. And also an AC adapter port. So obviously the fact that it has an AC adapter port means that the 32X, just like the Mega CD, requires its own power supply. So obviously to use the 32X you're going to need to plug in the Mega Drive and you're going to need to plug in the 32X. And of course, if you want to have the 32X and the Mega CD set up together, so you want to have all three in use at the same time, then you are of course going to need to have three of these guys plugged in. Now that is going to be quite difficult because obviously you're going to have your TV plugged in and then three of these great big guys sat in a power strip next to each other. That is going to be a bit difficult. You can see here I'm just setting up to do some CD 32X gaming. So I've got the 32X here, the Mega Drive Mark II here, and a Mega CD Mark II here. I've already connected all the power cables to the backs of these consoles, and I've already connected the AV lead that connects to the TV and the AV lead that connects the 32X to the Mega Drive. And you can see at the back here really is a mess of cabling. There is so much going on, and if I was to have it also connected into a sound system, in fact let's do that quickly now. Connect it into a sound system, there you go. That's another two cables, so we've got loads of cabling going on back here now. And if this was a Mega Drive Mark I, we could even have the mixer composite cable connected in. And wow, the mind boggles. AVGN said a little while ago when he reviewed this that it looked like the machine was on life support, and that really is the best way to describe it. Look at all this. What other consoles do you know that take this much effort to set up? This is madness. But on to the main problem. So we now have all of this set, and we have three of these big adapter power supplies that need plugging in. Now over here I have a 6-way electrical adapter, and on the far socket just over under there, I can't pull it out any further because the cable's not long enough, on the 6th socket right at the end there is where the TV is plugged in. I usually have a VCR plugged in as well, but I've unplugged that to make this even easier. Okay, so we have 5 spare sockets that we need to plug 3 boxes in. So surely plugging these in should be quite easy. So we'll start with the Mega Drive itself. Let's plug that into this first socket. Then next up, let's untangle it from the mess of wires. Let's do the Mega CD here. Now you can see it's not going to sit next to the Mega Drive one because there isn't enough room. It cannot physically sit directly next to it, so you have to leave an empty space. You have to waste a power socket and move it on to the next one. Likewise, the 32X adapter here, 32X power brick, won't sit in between them, and it won't sit on the next socket by itself, so I'm going to have to go right under and get it. Oh, I've run out of sockets. No, I haven't. Just in next to the TV. There we go. are now all plugged in and ready to go. But I've had to use a 6 socket strip to connect my TV up there, 32X Mega Drive and Mega CD. That's 2 empty sockets. So bear that in mind if you're trying to set this up. You're going to need either a 6-shot electrical adapter or one where the sockets are very widely spaced apart. Once you've got that bridge crossed, you'll be able to bring in your Mega Drive. I'm going to use the Mega Drive 2 here, just for ease. You can imagine how it looks on the Mega Drive 1. Now, to help this work with the Mega Drive 2, it requires an adapter plate, which comes in the box. And that just looks like this. And that just stops it rocking backwards and forwards when it sits on the console. So to use that, you just slide it on there. And then drop it into the cartridge port and press down. And you'll see that that plate just means it sits nice and firmly so that you're not risking it being knocked out at any point while you're playing with it. Now, in the instruction manual for the 32X, you will find it says it's not compatible with the Mega CD and Mega Drive hybrid console, the Multimega. But actually it is, it will fit in and it will work and play 32X games. The only problem is you won't be able to open the CD tray flap while it's in. And so due to FCC regulations they had to say it wasn't compatible. But if you do have the Multimega it will work. Now, once you've got it plugged in, you'd think you're ready to put your game in, connect it to the TV, connect it to the power and play your game, but you'd be wrong, and that's where those second AV TV ports come in. So let's flip it round, and you have to take this cable which comes with the 32X, and if you're using it with the Mega Drive 1 you'll need this extension cable to make it compatible with that, so make sure that comes with your 32X when you buy one. Sometimes they don't. However, we're using it with the Mark II, so we won't need that, so we'll sit that down there. You plug one end of this cable into the AV out port on the Mega Drive. We'll do that there. And the other end into the AV in port on the 32X. And that helps the layering work. So basically, if you haven't done that, you will only see either the layer that the Mega Drive itself is outputting to the TV or the layer that the 32X is outputting to the TV, depending on which console you connect to the actual TV. So it's very important that you make sure this cable is in, otherwise you're not going to be able to get the 32X experience. You then of course take the AV lead that you've got connected to your TV and you connect that to the AV out port on the 32X. Connect your power supply to the Mega Drive and to the 32X. Spin it back round and now you're ready to put your game in. So let's see what the games look like. Well, they come in these nice cardboard boxes. These are actually my favourite Sega boxes. I really like these. This is Metalhead, you can see. The side slides out like that and you've got a shell there that you can put down, and this inner tray. Inside the inner tray you find the instruction manual. It's a very thick instruction manual for Metalhead. I'm assuming that's just because it's hundreds of languages. And then of course the actual game cartridge itself. These are pretty similar to the standard Mega Drive cartridges, and as I've said, standard Mega Drive cartridges will fit in there. Just a little bit of a design difference to make it easier for people to tell that this isn't a standard Mega Drive game. And as you'd expect, that locks into the top there, making this unit quite tall. And then once you've got it all connected up, you've got your controller in, you hit the power and you're ready to play some Metalhead on the 32X. Okay, so this is Metalhead. Let's get into the game.
Good luck.
Straight into it.
Stage 1. Mission 1. Your first mission. Destroy all your next in the city near the border. Remember to take them all out.
So as you can probably guess, I myself am in a mech. I have several viewpoints. There's top-down one here, for example. I have a couple of different weapons available to me. This guy. I'll switch into my grenade cannon, which can lock on. There we go. You'll immediately notice that the graphics here are vastly superior to a 16-bit game, so already showing the difference that the 32X makes. Kind of very similar to a mech warrior type game. It is your standard mech shooter affair. Nothing deeply spectacular. You can lock your mech's legs so that it will strafe rather than turn round. Useful in combat. I find it's difficult to make it run because you have to double press forward. Where the hell is that enemy? After me.
Grenade cannon.
Oh, turned round and I shouldn't have turned. That got him. But yeah, that is Metalhead for the 32X. Alright then, so no introduction needed here. This is of course the instantly recognisable Doom. Let's turn the skill down so that there's actually a chance I'm going to be able to talk while playing it. One thing you do notice there, actually, just before we start playing, is an advantage this has over other 32-bit systems, such as the Saturn, the 3DO, the PlayStation, is the fact that because this is cartridge-based, you don't have any load times. Everything loads pretty much straight away, which is a really good benefit. I should point out, this is a game that always scared me when I was younger. Don't know why, but Doom has always scared me. Kill the things. How do I aim to shoot that guy? I know, let's not stand in the toxic goo. It's not going to help. Don't know how I aim to shoot the guy that's up there. Run away! Alright, level finish. Flip the switch. 75% kills. That'll be that one guy on the ledge. You can see here, it's not the best version of Doom ever, but it's solid and it's more than the Mega Drive could have pulled off. Although I do think the Jaguar version is better. And the SNES version has better sound. But yeah, that's pretty much all you need to see here. I am not going to introduce this game. You know what it is. On the 32X version, you get to choose between the arcade or a new 32X version, so we'll go for that. You can choose whether you just want to be a pilot by yourself or a pilot on a gunner in a Y-wing. Is that a Y-wing? Someone's going to correct me, aren't they?
Attention all wing pilots.
It's a trap.
Receive orders. Wipe out enemy fighters.
It's a trap.
Right, so anyway, once you've finished taking the piss out of Admiral Akbar, it's time to take down some ties. You can speed up and slow down to move them around you. You have protons and you have your main cannon. Yeah, I know you can tell I've got some mad pilot skills. Try not to be jealous. One of the cool things in this, if I get hit a few times you'll see it, is you will hear R2 in the back complaining. Because obviously he's taking a kick in when you get hit. See if I can get hit by one more thing and that should make R2 speak. There you go. This features all the arcade levels you would expect. You've got the trench run, you've got all that kind of stuff. It's a fantastically brilliant game. You can choose to use this view if you want. Once again here, you don't need me to tell you that the graphics are better than the standard Mega Drive. The standard Mega Drive would never have been capable of this. So we'll now autopilot to the next stage.
Wipe out enemy fighters.
It's a trap.
So you have to avoid the anti-fighter cannons, the destroyers. So yeah, for those of you who haven't figured it out already, that was Star Wars Arcade for the 32X. Sales of the 32X had gotten off to a good start, and it seemed gamers weren't put off too much by the impending arrival of the Saturn. Unfortunately, however, developers were, as they didn't want to spread their resources too thinly, especially with Sony's new PlayStation also making its eagerly anticipated debut. Because of this, the 32X received just 34 titles, many of which were simply optimised versions of standard Mega Drive games like Virtua Racer, or rushed ports of popular games like Doom, which lacked 10 of the game's original levels due to time constraints, and is often criticised for having inferior sound to the Super Nintendo version, despite the advanced audio hardware of the 32X and Mega Drive combined. 6 more games were also released as CD 32X titles, requiring both add-ons, including an enhanced version of the cult classic Night Trap, similar to the 3DO version. With hindsight, it's difficult to see why anyone would think CD 32X games would be a good idea, as they required the ownership of 3 pieces of hardware, making the market even smaller than the already quite minimal 32X audience. These low levels of developer interest in the 32X were soon echoed by consumers, because as we've seen before, great hardware is useless without great games to play on it. And with very few games, as well as a totally new console just around the corner, Sega of America couldn't convince anyone to buy a 32X, and as a result the console's price soon fell to less than £100, before it was discontinued altogether in October of 1995, less than a year after launch. A planned Mega Drive and 32X combined console called the Neptune was also scrapped during its prototype stages, as Sega turned all its attention to the Saturn. Sadly, the damage to Sega's reputation was already starting to show. First and foremost, they looked greedy, like they were trying to make people part with more and more money for hardware they didn't need or want. And secondly, they looked confused. Sega had switched from cartridge-based Mega Drive to the CDs of the Mega CD, back to carts with the 32X, and then back to CDs again with the Saturn, like they had no idea where they were going. This troubled many developers, and marked the beginning of the end for Sega as a player in the hardware market. In its defence, the 32X was a powerful piece of hardware, capable of doing things its competitors weren't. But for so many reasons, it just never really got going, and is now seen as something of a joke in the footnotes of Sega history, a reminder of what not to do. That's all we've really got time for on this week's show, but don't forget to keep in touch via Twitter, and join me again next time for more retro gaming reviews on Replay Retro.